The front door bell of the Royal Palace of Incrediblania was a highly elaborate kind of bell devised by the court magician for the Queen, who thought that ordinary front door bells were not quite regal enough for the palace. "Ah," said the King, who happened to be passing one day when it rang, "I wonder who that is." And instead of waiting for the footman to open the door, what must he do but go and open it his royal self? Oh, dear. Kings aren't supposed to open front doors. Never mind how fancy and elegant the front door bell may be. But His Majesty, the King of Incrediblania, did it. Yes, he went and opened the front door. Immediately, a person outside shoved into his arms a bundle of limp rhubarb, 6 large oranges, 2 nice hearty cabbages, 2 pounds of rather squashed raspberries, a curry cucumber, and some straight bananas. "Morning," said the person. "Thanks very much." And off he went, slamming the palace gates with no end of a clang. He was very new and highly inexperienced greengrocery assistant. For a moment, the King stood still, thinking of something to say. Rhubarb tickled his nose and made him sneeze. Achoo! And he dropped some of the greengroceries. Just then, an extremely fancy carriage, drawn by 4 pink camels, drew up at the palace gates, and out of it came His Imperial Nobility, the Nabob of Nullipop. He strode majestically up the palace steps and stopped in front of the King, who was struggling with the greengroceries and had raspberry juice running down him. "Ah, I make the errors," said the Nabob to himself. "I to the tradesmen's incoming have arrived." He didn't recognize the King, of course, with all the greengroceries and the raspberry juice running down him. So the Nabob of Nullipop strode majestically back down the front steps and went round to the back door, thinking it must be the front door. The royal cook opened the door, saw the Nabob, and said, "Oh, go on we know, Tommy. You are a one and all, coming round here all dressed up fancy-like." And thinking it was the greengrocer, she gave him a playful slap with a piece of pastry she had in her hands, which spread flour all over the Nabob's face. "How dare you the insults make at me?" cried the Nabob, blowing flour off himself. "Pooh, never have I so rude to been. First I go to a door, and there are vegetables at me thrown. Now I am floured like a cake. You miserable person, fall on your face and apologize." "Do you come it with me, Tommy?" said the cook, still thinking it was the greengrocer, and she slapped some more flour on the Nabob. The Nabob retaliated by pushing her into a basket of washing. "That's done it," shouted the cook, who was a bit hot-tempered through slaving over hot ovens. "I'm leaving. Tell the Queen I've had enough of this place, and I'm leaving." And she hurried off to pack her case. Inside the palace there was slight royal confusion. It was nearly dinner time, and no dinner was ready. "This is outrageous," cried the Queen. "How dare cooks leave? It's treason, that's what it is. Off with her head." "Pardon, Majesty," said the Lord Chamberlain. "First of all, we do not know where Cook is, so we can't off her head. Secondly, if we did find her and offed her head, she wouldn't be able to cook dinner. So either way, it's no go." Just then the King arrived straight from the front door, covered in vegetables and raspberry juice. "Whatever have you been doing?" said the Queen. "Go and put on an apron and help me to get dinner. Cook's left." But before the King could get as far as the door, the head footman came in and said, "Your Majesties, His Nobility the Nabob of Nullipop has arrived." "Oh, my goodness!" cried the Queen, waving a saucepan and a wooden spoon. "Go and welcome the Nabob and keep him talking while I get dinner ready." The King dashed out of the kitchen, tripped over, and landed in a heap at the feet of the Nabob. "Ah," said the Nabob, "some politeness at last I get. They bring the cushion." And he sat down on the King, thinking he was a cushion. The next minute, the Nabob and the King had rolled over and were in the most assorted muddle you ever saw. Then in came the Queen, having opened tins right and left, put on kettles and given orders to the servants so as to get some sort of dinner on the go. "Oh, my dear Nabob, how nice of you to call," she cried. Then she stopped with a gasp. There was no Nabob there. Neither was there any sign of the King. "But I can't understand it at all. Surely the Nabob can't have rung the bell and then run away. No. Perhaps the King has taken him for a walk. Very clever of him. Gives me time to get dinner arranged." She went to sit down on a couch, which immediately shot off and began to crawl across the room, because the King and the Nabob had rolled under it and wanted to get out. "Help!" cried the Queen. Round and round went the couch, with the King and the Nabob under it. Suddenly, the couch ran into a wall and tipped over. The King and the Nabob struggled to their feet and looked at each other, not believing anything. The Nabob found his tongue first and was just about to use it to declare war when a herald came rushing in and blurted out, "Your Imperial Nobility, word has just reached us that the nearby kingdom of Snatchitania has invaded Nullipop."
Oh, good gracious,
cried the King, and the Nabob said much the same, only 10 times worse in his own language.
I must leave at once, cried the Nabob. My kingdom must be defended. I think, said the King, we owe it to your royal nobility to help you defeat the enemy. After all, that business with the vegetables at the front door and runaway couches is the least we can do.
So the King gave orders for the army and navy to be mobilized and leave at once for the kingdom of Nullipop. But oh, dismal disaster! Most of the army were on holiday. Some of the others were ill in bed, and the rest weren't too keen about having to fight someone else's war.
Oh, alas, I must go it alone,
cried the Nabob. But what were those specks in the sky? Were they Snatchitanian aircraft coming to bomb Incrediblania? No, they couldn't be. No, airplanes didn't exist there yet. No, good gracious. They turned out to be the 3 vegetarian dragons who'd been looked after by Count Backwards, but had got fed up with his cooking and left the kingdom. They landed in clouds of coloured smoke at the feet of the King and the Nabob.
Oh, we heard,
panted Dragon 1.
that your kingdom is being attacked, and we also heard that you were here,
said Dragon 2.
So we came to help,
said Dragon 3.
Between us, we will help you defeat the enemy.
Splendid,
cried the King.
My good dragons, how nice of you to help.
So off went the Nabob, the King and Queen, and the princesses, and what was available of the King's army, with the dragons flying ahead. Soon they arrived in Nullipop, and there, sure enough, the Nabob's troops were engaged fighting the Snatchitanians. The 3 dragons flew over the enemy in formation. They peeled off one by one and dived on the Snatchitanians, belching fire of the best quality. Zoom, zizzle, roar, zzzz, boom! That did it. The Snatchitanian army wasn't equipped with anti-dragon artillery and would have had time to use it if it had been. In almost no time at all, it was routed, put to flight, beaten, driven off, defeated, and generally made to wish it hadn't come. And his severe sinisterness, the high grabber of Snatchitania, ran away and got into trouble with his wife for being late for tea.
How can I thank you?
Cried the Nabob of Nullipop afterwards to the King of Incrediblania.
Thanks to your good dragon friends, my kingdom is saved.
Good old dragons,
said the King.
I shall find a nice quiet corner for them to stay as long as they like,
said the Nabob.
But now I must think of a suitable reward for your majesty.
He glanced round and saw the 2 princesses, who were certainly well worth seeing.
Aha, I have it. I shall present you with gold to the combined weights of your charming daughters.
Good gracious,
exclaimed the King. Oh, dear, whispered Princess Sonia. I wish I hadn't done all that slimming. This is one occasion when it pays to be fat. I've heard of people being worth their weight in gold, said Princess Rosie, but I never have thought it could be me.
Come then,
said the Nabob.
We shall arrange the royal weighing to take place in the courtyard tomorrow.
But oh dear, all during this conversation someone was lurking outside, listening. It was the wicked Count Backwards. The King couldn't very well have left him behind in Incrediblania, as he'd have tried to seize the throne. So here he was, lurking outside the banqueting hall, and not only lurking, but plotting. Next day, the courtyard of Nullipop was arranged for the grand royal weighing ceremony. The 2 princesses sat daintily on the scales. Attendants picked up bags of gold and placed them carefully on the upper side. The scales didn't move.
More gold,
cried the Nabob, and the attendants put more bags on the scales. Still the scales didn't move. You haven't got any lead weights stuffed up your jersey, have you? Whispered Princess Rosie to Princess Sonia. Of course not, whispered Princess Sonia. It must be those extra sausages I had for breakfast.
more gold,
cried the Nabob, not quite so loudly this time. Another bag or 2 of gold were put on the scales, but still there was no movement. Our daughters can't be as heavy as all that, said the Queen.
Shush,
Said the King out of the side of his mouth.
let's be thankful for nice heavy daughters if they bring the gold in.
More gold, squeaked the nabob, beginning to turn slightly pale green. On went more bags of gold, but still the scales didn't move. The attendants put on all the bags of gold they had, and still the princesses seemed to be heavier, which they couldn't have been.
This understand I cannot, groaned the nabob. How is it that such slim and dainty girls can weigh so terrifically much?
Just then, there was a slight puff of technicolor smoke, and an enormous and very fancy elephant appeared behind the two princesses. His front feet had been weighing down their side of the scales all the time. What dastardly cheating was this? The nabob went 30 different colors, all of them unpleasant.
So, he yelled, it is the cheatings you do. This is how you take advantages of me. Because you save my kingdom, you now try to cheat me out of all my gold. Now there shall be war again, and it shall be against Incrediblania. But it's nothing to do with us, cried the king. I know nothing about elephants, invisible or otherwise. I don't understand it.
Oh, yes, he does, shouted a nasty voice, and the wicked Count backwards came running up, leering and sneering and gloating all at once. He pointed a long, skinny finger at the king. He told his court magician to make one of your elephants invisible, and then he had it brought here to stand on the scales and make it seem as if the princesses were heavier than all your gold.
Miscreant,
yelled the nabob to the king.
evil doer, swindler, cheater, trickster, bamboozler, diddler, fiddler, villain. No, cried the king. I'm none of these. I'm innocent of all these charges. It's this wicked person, the wicked Count backwards, who has plotted it. He's always plotting against me.
Pah! What an excuse! Exclaimed the wicked Count.
I shall settle this, cried the nabob. Let the court magician of Incrediblania be brought before us.
I trust your imperial nobility is pleased with the magic surprise Count Backwards instructed me to arrange for you, said the court magician when he arrived. The sudden appearance of your elephant from nowhere was, I feel sure, a most entertaining event. Grrr, snarled Count Backwards, seeing his plot come apart in mid-air.
There, I told you so, said the king. Count Backwards at his old games again. What am I to do with this fella? Aha, said the nabob. I have the nice idea. I have a very nice pale blue elephant which requires constant washing. The Count shall stay here and wash my blue elephant every day as punishment for plotting against you. But now, said the king, we cannot possibly accept all this gold. I mean, Count Backwards plotted to make it look as if we were cheating you. We weren't, of course, but I don't think we can accept any gold now.
Oh, I don't know, said the Queen, who hardly ever admitted to not knowing anything. It would come in handy.
Of course, said the nabob. We shall weigh the princesses again, and this time without any elephants, and you shall have their weight in gold, as I promised, for saving my kingdom. Oh, very well, if you say so, said the king.
So everything ended happily. The wicked Count Backwards was out of the way for a bit, and the kingdom of Incrediblania was as rich as a Christmas pudding made with 1,000 eggs, marzipan covering, and chocolate icing. Goodbye.